Have you ever wondered how the heck people sell stuff from Instagram? I have to say, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Instagram. I use Instagram. I use it more like in a lifestyle way. I share stuff about my kids. I share stuff about what's going on in the business. I kind of know how to use it for business, but it's never really been something that's taken off. Like, I've learned how to use Pinterest to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I wouldn't say I've ever made hundreds of thousands of dollars from my Instagram presence. So I get asked from my students all the time, can we use Instagram to grow our digital product business? And so I thought, why not bring on the expert in this topic? So I asked a good friend of mine, Elise, to come on, and she is going to share so many amazing tips with us on how to use Instagram to grow our digital product business. So Elise Darma is an Instagram marketing educator who specializes in helping not so insta-famous business people make real revenue directly from the free app. She has helped 20,000 plus people grow their businesses, sell more programs, and build money-making brands, all through her no-fluff courses like Story Vault and Insta Growth Boss. Elise has been featured on her Instagram expertise in publications such as Forbes, Entrepreneur, Brit Plus Co., Elite Daily, and The Every Girl. So I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation between the two of us. She's going to share how she hit $1 million in 2020 by selling her Instagram courses. And also she's going to share the best tips on how you can grow your own digital product business using Instagram. So here we go. Here's Elise. You are listening to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monica Froese, a mom of two and your secret weapon to creating a six-figure digital product business. I'm on a mission to help 1,000 women make $100,000 a year. That's right, $100 million towards financial independence for women. As an online business expert, I am teaching you everything I know right here week after week, so you can join us on the journey to $100 million. Sound good? Then let's jump in. Welcome, Elise. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Monica. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. So let's see, we met I always like to tell people, because I feel like sometimes when I'm interviewing people, I have this familiarity and I have to remember that not everyone knows who you are. Right. So we met back in September 2019 before the world closed, I think, right?
Yes.
In Boston at Mariah Coz's event. Mm-hmm. And you approached me and wanted to know more about Pinterest advertising. And it was funny because I had gotten targeted with a bunch of your ads at this point. And so I knew that you did Instagram, but I had never met you before. And then we got to talk and here we are. So you are the Instagram expert. I would say, like, I watch you a lot and you really focus now on like Reels and TikTok, but you cover pretty much like everything about Instagram as well, like stories and
the whole strategy you need for business to use Instagram to actually bring sales to your business without it becoming your next part-time job. You know, like Instagram's a busy platform, but I'm not about telling business owners to be on it for half their day. It's about what's most efficient, what's working the best for you in your business right now. And that's why I focus so much on Reels and TikTok, because that is currently the best place to be focused on. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to get to the point where we talk about a lot of your tips for digital product owners, or digital product creators, I should say. But before we do that, I find your business story, your entrepreneurial journey, very interesting. I know a lot about it, but some people might not. So I'd love for you to tell us where you started and how you got to where you are today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this question is always interesting. Like, how far back do I go? When I was 9 years old, 18 years old? For context, I grew up in a very conservative religious household. The daughter of 4 kids. So there was 6 of us in total. And I was very much a straight A student, goody two shoes, try to be a perfectionist, be the best daughter I possibly could be. And then when I was 18, 19, I kind of cracked. I started traveling. I saw the world for the first time. I realized, I can actually be whoever I want to be. I don't have to be the person who I thought I had to be. And travel was really the catalyst for me feeling true freedom for the first time as a young adult. And so I did all the things you're supposed to do after, I like went to university, but my motivation was gone. I went from being a straight A student to barely passing my classes and realizing that I was wasting my time and money. It took 3 universities before I finally graduated with a degree, took multiple jobs in between, working on cruise ships, being a piano teacher, working for a travel company called Kentucky. My 20 to 25 year life experience, they were tough years, not ones that I'd want to live again. But I was trying a lot of different things. And so I finished my degree finally in radio and television arts. At the time, my student job was as a social media marketer for a tech incubator in Toronto. So this was kind of a new concept then. It was part of the university, but it was basically a space within the university for startups to build for free. And so I was the social media marketer starting back in 2010. And at that time, we were really just running Facebook and Twitter. And so through that network, people began to see me as the social media person. And that's how I got my very first client. A friend of mine who was a startup entrepreneur in the space said, "Hey, Elise, I'm looking to hire a marketing rock star. Do you know of anyone?" And at that point, I'd read the 4-Hour Work Week. I knew I needed to travel more. I wanted to get to Bali. And so I started thinking about having a business on the side of my day job. And so when he asked me that question, that's when the light bulb went off. And I thought I could say that's me. And so I did. I said, I'm looking to take on client work on the side. And so a week later, he was my first client. I think I charged like $1,000 a month for a variety of social media services, mostly Instagram focused. And I thought I was just rolling in it, like with my paycheck plus $1,000 a month in addition for one client. It was amazing. And so that's how I really got my training wheels going, was with that one client. I didn't know Instagram, but this was 2012 to 2013. And so it really was a teen dominated platform then. And a large focus for me was influencer marketing. So I would send their clothes to teens around the world. And we quickly grew to 100,000 followers within 6 months. It's a different landscape then.
Yes.
And so just by word of mouth, I started to get more clients. Within 9 months, I had enough clients that I could quit my day job. So I did. And that was in 2014. And that really kicked off my whole solopreneur digital nomad aspect of my business career. I quit my job just so I could be location independent. And that's what I did for a couple of years. I didn't really make a whole lot more than what I made at my day job. And I didn't really make more money every year. It was just sort of flatlined because it was just me doing client work. I didn't know how to scale. So it wasn't until 2016 that I thought, this location independence is great, but financial independence would be really good too. Like, let's actually pay off my credit card for once. So I thought, okay, I need more clients. So I'll, create a personal brand on my Instagram as proof to future clients that I can do it for themselves. So that's when I used all my travel photos and stories in 2016. And I really grew the Elise Darma profile on Instagram. Before that, I was behind the scenes. I didn't want the business to be based off of me showing up. So I quickly grew to 30,000 and then I think 50,000 followers by the end of that year. And another light bulb went off and I thought, there's followers here who don't want my agency services. They want to know how I travel so much and how I'm growing. Maybe I can hire a business coach. That was the light bulb moment. It was the first time I realized that someone has probably done this before and they can teach me how to do it. So I hired my first coach. She helped me really launch the Elise Darma brand. She taught me how to run a webinar for the first time. I got to talk in front of my audience and really understand what they wanted from me, why they were following me. And what it came down to was they wanted Instagram growth. So that led me to creating my first digital product in 2017. Because I'd been following Mariah, I'd been following Melissa Griffin, I'd been following Amy Porterfield, all the course giants. And I thought, I should try this. This looks really like the way to actually make more money. And so in 2017, I launched my first course called Insta Growth Boss, did a live challenge, had about 50 people sign up, was freaking out inside that people were sending me money in advance of giving them something. Like, it was the craziest concept because I pre-sold the course and then built it live with them. So I went through all these up-leveling feelings, and really the overarching feeling was sickness. Like, what have I gotten myself into? But I got through that. And then since 2017, I've learned how to continue to sell that course without me launching, running ads, building funnels, like that's been my focus. And, more trial and error over the years have led me to creating more digital products. But now, yeah, exactly. It doesn't happen overnight. But now with my current suite of digital products, which still includes that first course, plus some smaller mini courses, it took 7 years to hit our first 7-figure revenue year. So that's where we're at today.
And that first 7-figure year was 2020, right?
It's 2020, yeah.
Okay, so this is where I was listening to another podcast episode with you, and my ears perked up because I feel like you basically came to an understanding in 2020 that you needed to do things differently, and you're pretty much against a lot of guru advice out there in the space of have these big expensive programs. For one, you thought it would tie you down because you are still location independent, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it would tie you down, and like the more money you take from people, the more responsibility you have for delivering to them. And I am completely on board with that. So I pivoted completely in 2020 as well. And one of the things, I held on to during the whole pivot really, like the concept started probably 12 months before I actually executed it. Because there was a lot of like mourning that went into the fact that this thing I built for so long, I was going to blow up. And what resonated with me when you were talking was how you pretty much just gave yourself permission to do something different. And that led to this mini product suite that you have. I think there's 3 products in it, right?
Yep.
Tell us so your main course is Insta Growth, right?
Yep. Insta Growth class. Yep.
And that's like a $500 course, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It sells between $600 and $1,000.
Okay, perfect. And I think you actually mentioned too, when I was listening to you, that you find that can be a difficult price point to sell at. And I also found that with my Pinterest advertising course, which was probably why we were in the same predicament. It was like we had this course, we could sell it on Evergreen, but it wasn't necessarily quite the thing that was going to get us to $1 million. So, right. And I like very similar stories. And so when I was developing my new product suite, I went a little bit different. I ended up doing an ascension ladder, which membership, like a mid-tier program that was $2,000. And then what was going to come after that, we've struggled with. Do we want high ticket? And you said, no, I'm not doing high ticket. I'm doing these 3 smaller products. So why did you decide to go with the smaller products, and how is it going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the smaller product idea started in 2019 because I was really struggling to scale my business through the one course. I was following the Russell Brunson advice, which is one product, one funnel, run it until you make $1 million. I was trying to do that for years. But it was a struggle because you're dealing with the Facebook ads platform. And it just hit me one day. I had an email list of maybe 20,000 people, and I was running either a pre-sale or a flash sale of Instagrowth Boss, and I was getting it in front of them. And it was like pulling teeth out, like no one was moving. And I just thought, why are they on my list? Why are they here if they're not buying my amazing course? And then it was like, duh. They don't want it. They want you. They want something else from you, but they don't want that course. Maybe it's too much for them. Maybe it's not meeting them where they're at right now. So that's when I really decided, okay, do I go high ticket and give them more of me, but knowing that their expectation is going to be quite high? If you ask someone for $10,000 to work with you, they're going to want to get $10,000 out of that relationship at least, right? They want to know that there's proof, there's a track record that you help them earn at least that much money back. That feels like a lot of pressure to me. Not that I don't think I can do it, but it's just a lot of pressure. I'm already kept up at night thinking about my business, let alone someone else's business.
Amen.
So yeah, exactly. And I'm best when I'm thinking about my business. Let's be honest. Like, yeah, I can put myself in your shoes, but I don't know it intimately like I know my business. So then the other option was, okay, the $600 price point, maybe it's too steep for people. They see an Instagram post of mine. They might not be ready to give me $600 for a course. So why don't I create a little taster of what it's like to learn from me and work from me? And I had seen in 2019 that template-based products were growing in popularity, but I didn't want to do something that they'd already seen before. So I knew I could create a mini little course or mini template-based product around Instagram that wasn't really dominating the market then. And again, I wanted to make sure it was mine. It was different. It was unique. No one else had done it yet. So I thought about it for months. Like I looked at the market, I ruminated on this for months. And it was the summer of 2019. I was riding my bike in Toronto, which if you live in Canada, you know that you live there for the summer months. The rest of the year, you're just bearing through it. The summer months are amazing. I was just so happy. The sun, the bike, the wind. And I realized that I loved the season of summer so much. And it was kind of similar to there being seasons in my business. Not every moment of running your business is happy in the sunshine with the wind blowing through your hair. There's different seasons you go through. And this wasn't a new concept either, but I just looked at what are the seasons that my business goes through? And I realized that when I looked at my whole path, it started with getting visible, growing an audience. That's what I did when I grew an Instagram following. People needed to follow me and know about me. After that, when I hired my first coach and she helped me do webinars and talk to my audience, that was a season of engagement. I needed to know who was following me and why. What did they want from me? After that, when I knew what they wanted, I moved into a season of lead generation. I needed to know who was willing to put their hand up and say, yeah, I'm kind of interested in what you're talking about. That's usually email list building, that phase. And then after I knew who was kind of interested in a potential Instagram course, I went ahead and did a launch and I pre-sold it. And that put me in a season of sales. So when I looked at my path, I could see the 4 seasons: visibility, engagement, lead generation, and sales. And that's when it clicked. Maybe I could create an Instagram-based product that gives people these ideas done for them already, based on those seasons. And then I can give people a structure. And that's how I differentiate myself. Now I'm not just creating a product that gives you fluffy, random Instagram story ideas for your business, which is great, but you don't really know how to use them. And do people really care what book you're reading? How do you connect it back to your business? That's what I'm about. And so I came up with these 4 seasons and thought, yeah, I'm going to come up with Instagram story ideas that people can share based on what their business needs the most right now, meaning what season they're in. And that was the idea. I think I came up with 365 ideas for your Instagram stories divided by the 4 seasons. I pre-sold it again to my audience. I made the sales page first, shared it with my audience, had a pre-sale sale. I had never seen that sort of traction and that sort of momentum happen so quickly after sending an email. That was my first sign that I was on to the right thing by selling I think it was a $27 product initially. So I launched it, I put it out there, and then after it just continued to sell, even after the pre-sale. And we started to run ads. We were running just cold traffic to our sales page. People were buying. This was mind blowing. I'd never seen this in my business before. And again, it really taught me that my audience wasn't dead. My email list of 20,000, they weren't just dead. They just didn't want to buy a $600 product for budget, for mindset reasons, whatever it was. So once I put forward a product that was a lot more easy to digest and purchase, then it was selling like crazy. And so I then upgraded Story Vault to 800 Instagram stories for your based on your seasons. And we also divided those prompts up by B2B and B2C. So because we wanted to make sure it made sense. Yeah. But what we learned from that product was people didn't necessarily understand B2B or B2C. They understand it means business to business or business to consumer, but they didn't understand how their model fit into those categories. So for our second Vault product, which people were asking for, so I didn't even have to do much market research. Literally, my audience was asking for a caption vault, which would be caption templates. Instead of categorizing them by B2B and B2C, which we found was confusing people, I decided to categorize the captions by what my audience typically offers. What do they sell? I figured that people would know that. They'd figure that one out a bit easier. And so I came up with 3 categories. We have coaches who sell coaching. We have service providers who sell services, whether online or in person. And then we have product creators who sell products, whether physical or digital. So then I wrote 300 caption templates, 100 for each category. Over the course of the summer of 2020, it was one of the more painful things I've done, over 20,000 words. And how do you write caption templates for all these different businesses and niches? It really was a mind-bending experience. And again, sold it and pre-launched it to my audience and it sold like crazy. And then the next thing was I'd already been dabbling in TikTok and short form video. So we did come out with the TikTok vault, but then when Reels came out, I merged the two and I made a videos vault. So those are our suite of vaults: story vault, caption vault, videos vault, covering different aspects of Instagram and TikTok. And so that's where we're at now with our products. And what we've found is now I don't really have to sell the course, the Instagrowth Boss course, because when they come into my world through one of these vault products, they're much more interested in working with me. Much different than a YouTube video. YouTube video is great, but they come, get what they want, and then they leave. If they do join one of my vault products, it's much more of a natural transition for them to check out my course and want to become a member of the course. So it's been a real learning experience.
So it did turn out to be an ascension ladder. They do come in through the smaller products and they will go on to buy the bigger course, but they get a level of trusting you for a lower entry point. I think from my experience on Pinterest being teaching on a specific platform, that it makes a heck of a lot more sense. In hindsight, if I had kept down the Pinterest path, I did end up having 4 Pinterest courses because I kept filling holes. I would have just done things differently. Like hindsight, you can only, this is the whole part of growing a business. You learn lessons. In hindsight, it's like, I probably would have combined these 2 things. But at that point it was like, well, it was going to be a whole nother course. I couldn't just add it in. So, it became a product ladder essentially. But the entry level, because when you think about Instagram, it's just one marketing strategy. And I think you're very similar to me in the sense that you acknowledge, like you said in the beginning of this, you're like, I don't want you on Instagram all day. Like you don't just grow a business on Instagram. There's a million other things that go into growing a business. And because it's just like one strategy to an overall picture, it's hard to get someone that is willing to DIY. They're at a level where they're not going to hire it out. They're going to DIY it, that wants to spend that higher. Like, it's like a really weird point to be at the $600 to $1,000, because it's like, well, it is an investment, but the person who's going to DIY has so many other aspects they're also working on. It's like, am I going to really spend my time just on Instagram? And then they question if it makes sense. But if you can back up and give them something that's super actionable for a lower dollar amount, and then they see the value in it, and they're like, oh, I'm moving the needle because of this, then the door opens to why wouldn't I pay for that? Because she's proven to me that what she's showing me will work. Like, that's how I envisioned that this happened for you, why it was such a hit.
Yeah, definitely. You want to give people quick wins, whether it's a free training or a lower price digital product, right? And that's the tricky part with the 27 or 30 or 47 price point, is you can't make it a full-blown course. You can't overwhelm people, and you need to help them get quick wins fast. If you can do that with your lower price products, then it's just going to be a no-brainer offer for them to look at your, full-fledged product and what do they get inside of there. And now they have more trust with you. And I think it just makes the buying process a lot smoother.
Yeah, I think so one of the things I teach in my new course, it's so funny because I teach low ticket digital products, and I always say 2 things. One problem, one solution. Do not boil the ocean in a low ticket. And I repeat myself, like I could just record myself and just play it all day long for my students, because they are so tempted to, they're like, oh, I'm creating a $47 product, and they're putting the kitchen sink into it. It's like, no. And if you don't get someone that quick win, when they pay you $47, they're never going to move on to keep buying other things for you. People just want a quick win. Especially, as a business owner, you just have too many things on your plate to not get that quick win. And that works for consumers too. I always think, I have a student right now, she's a home decorator. And so she could teach you how to decorate anywhere in your home. And we were talking, she was trying to create her entry level product. And she wanted to talk about the whole home. And I'm like, as someone who just built a home, me and you are completely opposite. You're like, I'm off exploring the world. And I'm like, oh, I'm now rooted in place because we just built a house, but that's okay. Cause I gotta stay rooted with them. So we built this home, and we basically tripled the size of our living space. And I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like, empty walls, like so much empty space. It's like mind boggling. And I was talking to her and I said, if I bought a guide from you and it was to how to decorate my whole house, I would be so overwhelmed. Like, I honestly don't know where to start. So we narrowed it down, and she's building a guide about how to decorate your living room. Because if you think about it, where's the place you spend the most time? Most families are going to spend their most evenings together in the living room. So that should be the place where you spend the most time that you would want to start. And that was a great way to just pull it back instead of giving everything, to just give a very specific what you're going to help them with, this one room in their house. But that opens the door. If they decorate their living room and love it, and your advice was so easy to follow, why wouldn't they buy the thing that's going to help them do the next room or the next 10 rooms?
Exactly.
So I love it. So, okay. So launching these smaller products is what was the catalyst to get to $1 million a year mark.
It was, I mean, yes, I think I was timing the market well in 2019 by coming up with the first bulk product. And then no one saw 2020 coming, right? No one saw lockdown and quarantine. And in the spring of 2020, I had just been lucky. Honestly, like I've been working on this online business to serve my own selfish desires, to be location independent. So I had this online presence. But in the spring of 2020, all my friends who owned restaurants, who were real estate agents, doctors, well, okay, I don't have friends who are doctors, but you get what I mean. Suddenly they saw the importance of having an online presence, an online business. A lot of people didn't even have a website. And so I was just really lucky to be in that situation when all of a sudden the world was really interested in having an online presence. So, and again, we had Story Vault, like we had that $27 product for someone to get that little appetizer course and get a sense of what it's like to work with me before they jumped into the larger course. And so 2020 was, it was the kind of perfect storm for our business and to help more people. So yeah, I can't take full credit for it because no one saw that coming, but I think we were just super lucky.
That's like a lot of how I try, you at one point earlier, you mentioned like how the online world's so different from when Instagram started in 2012, when you were building. And the reality is that that's kind of, when you look at these people out there, and a lot of my students get caught up in the comparison trap and the imposter syndrome. And I always say, a blogger who started in 2010 had like the faucet of free Facebook traffic. And me, when I started, it was a faucet of Pinterest free traffic. And so a lot of business is about being in the right place at the right time, meeting the right connection. Like, that's just kind of the reality of the world. Like, and that's why you have to keep pushing, because imagine this is your 7th year. If you had said 3 years ago, this is never going to work for me, like you hadn't found the thing at that point. And if you had given up, then you wouldn't have put yourself in the place to be in the perfect storm for 2020.
Oh yeah. I look back to 2019 when I was considering, what do I do? Like my business is flatlining. My profit's not improving. I can't sell this freaking course. That summer that I was riding around, like, what do I do? Like my then boyfriend and I had that conversation. He was playing devil's advocate and he said, what would it look like for you to shut it down? Where would you want to work? What kind of job would you want? Like he asked me those questions and I was really considering them because I've worked in a day job. I know what it's like to finish at 5 o'clock and check out. Having a business is not like that. And sometimes my business felt like it was paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes it was like, okay, I know what my expenses are. Are we going to make revenue this month? Like that's not a pleasant place to be in for years on end. So 2019, like I could have very well thrown in the towel. I think I'm too stubborn for that. And I decided to keep going. And then look at what happened a year later. Like everything changed. And I just couldn't have seen that coming. So
it's so funny because just less than a year ago, I was very similar. One of the early podcasts I did was about this whole idea that you would wake up with fixed expenses every month in your business, but no guaranteed revenue.
Yeah.
And it did feel like we were always, I call it the hamster wheel. We were chasing. And then end of last summer, so like we were, 6 months, a little bit less than 6 months since the pandemic. My daughter was like driving me a little bit crazy not being in school. Like she really is a social butterfly. And I was going through some weird like business depression. Like I just felt like, to what end? I kept thinking, if I'm not going to enjoy this, I don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. And I just was not enjoying teaching Pinterest anymore. But I felt like I was stuck on the hamster wheel. And she finally went back to school in the fall. And I remember she walked into, I was laying down in a dark room when she got home from school. And she was so concerned about me because I'm a very hard, like my office hours, I'm in my office. Like she knows, don't mess with mom during work time. And she was like, Mom, are you sick? And I was just in a funk. Like I couldn't connect with why I was doing it anymore. I just desperately needed a change. And I was scared. But I couldn't imagine going back to work for someone else either. And then we had this January. So that was like, I want to say September is when she found me on my back in bed watching Outlander. And then January, so 4 months later, we had our highest revenue month ever because I decided to retire Pinterest stuff and completely pivot what we were doing. And it's like, I think a lot of people think that's just all sunshine and roses all the time. And it's just not. Like, it's hard work doing this. You have to make really hard decisions too. It's not, I relate with the whole, sometimes just checking out at 5 would sound really nice, not having that. And I think you have employees, and contractors and stuff too. So it's like, their livelihood that you're concerned about, your livelihood that you're concerned about. It's a lot. It can feel like a lot, but I'm glad you were in the perfect place at the right time, because I will say I don't think we bought your video one yet, just mainly because I don't do videos. I do videos for my students. I don't do videos on social media.
Fair enough.
Not with the kids. Maybe one day when I can do hair and makeup again in my life, we might entertain that. But for now, we did buy your story vault and we bought your caption vault, and Haley uses the caption vault all the time when she's sending me like, post this. And it is so helpful. It saves us a ton of time.
Yeah, that's the whole objective. I've had people say, I use your caption templates for emails. I've had copywriters say, I'm a copywriter. I know how to sell on a sales page, but you've taught me how to sell through social media. Like, it's really wild, the mindset shifts that have happened just by giving people caption templates, which of course you need to adapt to your business,
right,
your voice, your niche, but it has the built-in sales, engagement, all those things that you need so that your caption actually gets you traction and isn't just another fluffy, like, today I'm sipping my coffee and reading this book. What are you up to? Like, no one's responding because no one cares.
Right. Isn't that so funny? The idea that the things we think people care about and they don't. That's so funny. Yeah. Okay. So that's actually a good segue into, how do you actually sell on Instagram? I feel like I have like a interesting relationship with Instagram. I gave up my personal one. I locked it down because I had it since my daughter was born. So it was like sentimental to me, but I figured I just got to the point I couldn't do a personal one and a business one. So now I do Redefining Mom is a lifestyle brand. So it's kind of easy for me to talk about the mom side and still have like my kids and then still talk about business stuff. I've like meshed it together. Through that, I will say it's led to a lot of great DM conversations with potential students. Potential students reach out to me all the time and they're like, I'm thinking about buying a product, and I'll have conversations there. I totally get the power of connection on Instagram. Probably I'm not utilizing it like I should. Mm-hmm. So what are like some tips if you're selling digital products, how we can use Instagram?
Yeah, there's a couple ways that I've tried to trim down the beast that is Instagram so that for business owners, it feels bearable yet efficient, meaning what you put into the app, you get out of it. So there is the story seasons method. You can check that out on storyvault.co. It breaks down how you can show up in your stories depending on what your business needs. But I would say for selling on Instagram, I've created another method called the Darma method to Instagram growth. I'll walk you through that quickly just to give you the high level view of what sales looks like. You've already hit the nail on the head. The fact that you are in the DMs having conversations, that is really the key for Instagram. It is an amazing sales and marketing tool compared to when I first started on it in 2013. It was a photography app then. Now, it's owned by Facebook. Facebook's putting all of its major updates into Instagram, not Facebook anymore. Instagram has so many features to build relationships, to close sales, and you don't even need like 1,000 followers to do that. If you go onto my website, my best case studies are featured there, and majority of people have made 5 figures from Instagram with less than 1,000 followers.
What?
So I don't even talk about me, my account, my success, because I don't want people to think, well, easy for you to say you have 100,000 plus. No, it's not about me. It's about my students who are generating $10,000 plus to their business with less than 1,000 followers. And the way you do this is what I've broken into the Darma method. So the D of the Darma method is design. You need to design what the customer journey is that you want for someone to have through your Instagram profile. And yes, that means that you can sell with your Instagram profile. You don't even need a website. right? You don't need to have a place to send them off to. You can do it all on the Instagram platform. So the first part is designing what that customer journey is going to look like, meaning when they become a follower, what do you want them to do next? After they take that step, what happens for them to become a sale, right? You do need to have a general flow. And for that, you need to have offers. You need to have things that you're selling. And sometimes people don't have those things yet. That's fine. You could still use Instagram as a way to grow your community, grow your people who are interested in your niche or your industry. And then you have an audience to launch to when you do have offers. So after the design phase, we have the A, which is the attract phase, the attract step. So when I look at attraction on Instagram, I'm talking about the top half of your profile. So your username, your profile picture, your name field, and your bio. This is the first impression when someone stumbles upon your profile, stumbles upon your content, they'll check out your profile. This first impression has to nail it, right? And so this is why in your bio, you actually want to call out who you're for, who you help and how. You want to really be specific and let them know what's in it for them by following you. The second line of your bio is what makes you unique and different. So again, you want to lay it all out there. Hey, I know there's other people in the industry who do this, but this is why my students or my clients work with me. It could be your years of experience. It could be revenue you've helped people earn, pounds you've helped people lost, of course, depending on your niche. It could be awards or recognition you've received in your industry. It could be a personality quirk. It could be something random that you're really interested in that people remember you for. But you want to come back to why your clients or your students pick you over someone else. And then the third line of your bio is a specific call to action as to what's in it for them to click the link below your bio. A lot of people have a link, but they don't really tell their follower, like, hey, if you click this, you get 10% off your first order, right? Make it alluring. So that's the attract phase, which is the top half of your profile. The R in the Darma method is for relate, and relate comes down to your content. So that's the second half, the bottom half of your profile. Your feed content, your story content, your video content, your live content. This is where people get overwhelmed, understandably. There's a lot going on here. And again, I'm not one to say like, oh, you need to post 3 to 7 reels a week and blah, blah. Like there was some information leaked from Instagram a few months ago that said some numbers, and it's an insane amount of content. I don't post 3 to 7 reels a week or whatever it is. But you want to focus on the content that's going to help your target person relate to you the fastest, the most. And right now, whether business owners want to embrace it or not, short form video marketing is what's getting you there the fastest. So that's Instagram Reels. Instagram Reels came out in August of 2020. What is that, 7-8 months ago? We're still seeing Reels being pushed through the platform like crazy. Like if you want to accelerate your growth, I wouldn't do any other type of content other than Instagram Reels. In fact, there's a student of mine who messaged me this time last year, April 2020. I'd started talking about TikTok and she said, hey, Elise, I saw your video. You finally encouraged me to get on TikTok. I posted a video and in the last week, it's gotten 40,000 views. Thank you. Oh. This was a student named Sade. Okay. Last year. Fast forward to now, she has continued to post videos on TikTok and now Instagram Reels. She has over 700,000 followers on TikTok and over 200,000 followers on Instagram. Because she got on video, because she stuck with it, she has blown past me. I've been growing my Instagram account since 2016. I have over 100,000 followers. Who cares about followers? What matters is your, how are you monetizing that? As a PS. But in the last year, she has almost 1 million followers across TikTok and Instagram because she just did it and she stuck with it. So when it comes to relating, and by the way, what her videos, she's not dancing, she's not singing. She is talking on camera, just giving 15 to 30 second tips about careers and coaching and that sort of world.
See, now I can get behind that because I'm sorry, the whole dancing or like the pointing thing.
Yeah, I hear this all the time. People are like, oh, TikTok, I feel like I'm going to be made fun of. I don't want to dance or point. I feel like I'm going to look ridiculous. That's you. Start with sharing a tip in 15 to 30 seconds. And the format of how you can do this is the first sentence out of your mouth needs to be a hook. Do not waste time. Don't say, hey, everybody. No, the first sentence is, 3 reasons why your blog needs a digital product, or touch on a pain point. Then reason number 1, reason number 2, reason number 3, say them. And then if you still have enough time in your 15 to 30 seconds, maybe include a call to action. Like, follow me for more tips about building a digital product suite, or share this video with your audience, or something like that. I don't include call to actions in every video, but if you can fit it, you can do it. Literally, that's it.
Okay.
Hook, tips, call to action.
I actually, honestly, of course you're going to convince me to do this.
Yes.
I was like, Haley, let's add this into the next launch, because I can do that. I can get behind this. But here's my question. And this could be because I will say, I kind of wrote in my mind, well, I actually wrote off Instagram stories for years. And then I was in Disney right before the pandemic hit. And I was like, I just feel like maybe if I post some cute pictures of my kids, I'll get into it. And then it ended up sticking. But I was like, I don't have time for this. I don't care. It goes away in 24 hours. So for reals, I have to say I haven't been on Instagram all that often lately, because I've been really into reading romance novels lately. I don't know. It's just very entertaining. Since we're still in quarantine, this is what I do. And what my mind can't wrap around, I get that there's a Reels section to your profile, but where else do people find Reels? Like, how do they get presented with it? Is it in the feed? Is it through story? I'm trying to wrap my mind around how people are presented with your Reels.
Well, Instagram totally updated the app after Reels came out in August. In the fall, we got a complete user interface update. And so now Reels is in the bottom menu of your phone. It's the middle button. So it's literally almost like the TikTok home feed. The moment you open up TikTok, you are in the home feed of Reels or videos, and you're just scrolling. We still have the regular home feed when you open up Instagram, but now the bottom menu, there is a middle button for Reels. And so that's you just scrolling Reels. If you go to your magnifying glass, which is your Explore page, tap that, you'll see Reels there too. So it is still heavily promoted in the app. In fact, Reels now has its own page for you to discover Reels. And they have their own tab on your profile where they live. So they're not going away anytime soon.
I did not see, how bad is this? Like, it's not like I don't use Instagram at all. I'm just not on it as much. And I think I have completely just ignored that middle button. That's there for Reels.
Fair enough. They also added a shop button, which I still ignore, to be honest. I think it's too obnoxious. It's in the upper right.
I see that too.
Yeah, where notifications used to be. But if you are preparing for a launch, it doesn't have to be that hard to get yourself done up for one day and batch film 5 to 10 reels. And so keep them tip based, right? The 3 tips base format. And then as you also want to film a couple for when your cart's open, and you do want to share one that talks about the benefits of your program. One could be student testimonials and results that you've gotten through your program. In fact, I did do a reel sharing Instagrowth Boss results. I used the green screen effect, and I don't want to trip you up or anything like that, but it is a very handy effect because it allows you to pull up screenshots that you have on your camera roll behind you. And this is all I did. I pulled up screenshots of people's wins, messages, DMs. I had them up behind me. I added the fun music, and I just pointed oh my God, look at this, 100K. Just pointed to their screenshot. And it's not like the most viewed reel, but it just continues to emphasize in another cool format that Instagram will push out a lot more than a carousel post. It continues to show your results. So you can 100% batch film all that.
Now I'm thinking we should even do this. Like right now, I'm pretty much just posting to stories when we release podcasts, but I guess we could just do a reel.
So we're working on this strategy for our YouTube videos. I'm not a fan of taking 10 or 15 seconds of the video or of the clip and just turning it into a reel. Because the platform favors content that is designed specifically for that feature.
Okay.
You can try it. I might be wrong, but I do find that stories that show a little moving line podcast clip, they don't get the most engagement. But instead, what you could do is, we're recording this podcast right now. Maybe when we finish, you write down 3 takeaways that we shared or that you got from this call or from this podcast recording. And then you just go ahead and record 15 seconds of you talking on camera saying the 3 takeaways that you'll get from this podcast or 3 tips. Obviously, they're not going to get the full experience through a 15-second video. So the call to action is, find the podcast for the full length experience with Elise. You want to say it in a more cohesive manner. But that's what we're going to do for our YouTube channel videos. Is we're not just going to pull a clip from our YouTube video because people know it's repurposed. doesn't have the same vibe. But instead I'll say like, we just released a video on selling on Instagram. Instead I'll film 3 tips to selling on Instagram in a way that doesn't feel icky. Number 1, number 2, number 3. For all 8 tips, head to the YouTube channel, head to Elise Darma YouTube channel to get them all,
I can do that.
So you just make it part of your recording process, especially when you're in the mindset to do it. I know you're worried about like getting makeup ready and camera ready. You don't actually have to be camera ready is the other thing. You can film like the way you look at home because that is real.
Yeah.
Real. And you're in the mindset to do it.
Yeah.
I do think that having some equipment's helpful. Like I have this tripod, which has a phone holder, right? So having that kind of stuff,
actually.
Perfect. And, ring lights attached to your desk. Ring lights do really add to the quality factor. So just being prepared with that kind of thing. And just building it into your flow. And obviously, if you see results from posting reels, you're going to keep doing it. If you don't see results, you're probably not. Yeah.
See, I feel a little selfish here because I feel like I just got some free advice myself. Okay, so then real quick, because I know this is running long. Just the M and the A. So we got to that was relating with our content.
Relate was the content, which we did all about reels. M is monetization. So how do you nurture that relationship after they see your content, right? So that's why you're building in CTAs. That's why you're asking them to DM you. When you do Instagram stories, you can ask them to reply to the story. That creates a DM thread. And as you've already experienced, DMs are probably the best way to monetize that sale because you can send unlimited number of links, voice notes, photos, videos. Like the DMs are where it's at to close a sale and help someone get off the fence. And then the last part is accelerate. How do you accelerate that whole process of how someone finds you, relates to your content, and becomes a customer? Accelerate changes depending on what's going on with Instagram. But today, the fastest way to accelerate that whole process is
ads. No?
Reels.
Oh, I thought we were going to say ads. I was like, I just keep seeing, when I think of like accelerating it, I always think ads, but no, Reels makes sense as well.
It's true. I use ads to accelerate that process, but I don't teach Instagram ads. So I keep it all to organic Instagram features.
Actually, no, that's better because a lot of people who are listening right now are not ready to invest in ads. Like it scares them because it's an investment, that whole understanding, putting money in and being able to experiment when not necessarily getting the money out. So perfect, because I always focus on ads. It's just how I've always been, but I forget that there's a whole world of organic content out there.
Exactly. I focus on organic because I do use ads. I'm just not sure it's something I want to teach because they are a beast and ever changing, as you know.
Yes, they are. So that's perfect. That's actually, I feel like I even just had like a little bit of a mindset shift because I've been teaching ads for so long that I just, in essence, I didn't have a whole ton of time for organic for a long time. And now I'm like, wow, I wonder how much traction we can get with Reels as compared to just fueling it with ads. So,
and double whammy for you. Sometimes the Reels you make, you save them and you can use that Reel as an ad. Like we do that often. I have a Reel where I share, a 5-step process to write a caption. There's no music. It's just me talking on camera. So that allows me to save it to my camera roll. I sent it to my ads person. Now we're running it as an ad.
Look at that. So we could add like another like bonus at the end of the Darma method. That's like repurpose the content that is taught you how to make. Get an ad agency and let them run ads for you.
Yeah, it works sometimes. And also like when you see an organic Reel take off, that's a big hint, a big clue to you that the algorithm and your followers and the audience likes this kind of content. So how can you take that same concept to turn it into an ad that will stop the scroll? Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually, oh my gosh, that's really, and I get targeted with your ads all the time, which is funny. I find yours very scroll stopping because I don't watch everyone's ads, but I watch yours a lot. But I feel like that's good because that's what you're good at, right? Like it works.
We have to try to make them not look like an ad, right? Because then your mind is like, whoop, I'm not even going to pay attention.
Right.
But by using Reels as an example, they don't look like ads right off the bat. So that's why I think they're doing well right now.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good point. And, I do run a lot of Facebook ads at this point. And so now I'm even thinking like, oh my gosh, so let me do these Reels and try to turn them in because that is my biggest downfall is we do focus a little bit too much, way too much on the static side of things because it's just, I hate to say it, but it's easier. And sometimes, I don't know, it was just like this mental block I had about Reels. And I'm sure a lot of people listening have mental blocks about Reels because I don't know, adapting to new things can be tough. It's like one more thing you have to learn. But did you say, and this is actually a great way to close it, you do have a course specific for Reels?
I do. It's called Videos Vault. And if you want to check out a little freebie, little teaser, you can go to elisedarma.co/reels and you can get 6 video ideas that you can use for your business. Download it. It's for free. It'll give you a little teaser as to like, how you can get started making them. Because again, I don't ever want to overwhelm someone. And I get what it's like to not want to show up on camera. I'm a wallflower. I'm an introvert. I show up in batched ways, but for the most part, I'm like behind the scenes, behind my computer writing. So yeah, you can head to elisedarma.co/reels and just start to dip your toe in a little bit.
So you basically just sold me on the third, me rounding out my products with you and getting
Try the freebie first. And then, if you want to, you can go to videosvault.co. And right now you get 300 video ideas for $47. That's our current pricing.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. I honestly feel like I learned so much from you on this. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, to give us all these amazing tips. So we know that we can, and we will link to all the links we always do in the show notes. We know how we can find the Reels. Where else would you want to send people?
My YouTube channel, it's got a ton of tutorials, step-by-step type of stuff. It's all free. So youtube.com/elisedarma. And then of course, for connection, for following along my day-to-day, you find me on Instagram at elisedarma.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Empowered Business Podcast. If you are ready to get started creating digital products and take your business to the next level, download my free digital product toolbox. Head to monicafroze.com/toolbox to grab it. As always, you can find all of the links and information mentioned in this episode at monicafroze.com/podcast. See you right here again next week.